Hi, today I want to share with you what I am currently working on, and that would be Nami from One Piece, and actually, more specifically, a early design of her that the creator of One Piece decided not to go for, and I am recreating it in Maya, and I will make it in a style that I want. To describe the style, I would say it is a combination of Marvel Rivals and Genshin Impact. Originally, I wanted to go for a completely Genshin Impact style of character, but I don't quite like it on this character, so I'm changing it a little bit in the future. To begin with, I want to say that this is not the final version of it. I'm gonna go through the whole model by part and talk about it a little bit, what I will keep and what I will change, and the changes won't be drastic. I started with this shoe actually. What it is missing right now is beveling and maybe adding more detail, not too much, separating these screws from this part of the model and beveling some of the models, because if I press 3, adding more subdivisions to this, it doesn't look as I want it to look, and maybe adding some more edges around this part to make it pop a little more. Yeah, this is pretty much done, at least the model part. What is left to do is just bevel, add a little bit more detail, separating some models, and then doing UVs and adding a texture. Then I actually moved on to doing the body, and I worked quite a bit on it. Right now, if I separate, it looks like this. However, I have other versions. I worked on it on ZBrush, then brought back to Maya and did topology here and did little details. I followed some references from games like Genshin Impact and created little details on the belly part and did topology following a tutorial online. If I find a link to it, I will put it in the description of this video, and I'm pretty happy how this turned out. I'm planning to put like the body that is below the clothes as a separate portfolio piece, because I believe this is a good topology. After that, I worked on the back and I made this, but later on I changed it here to have a little bit more muscle here and to have wider muscles down here. When looking from the back, this looks a little bit better. Of course, without shading, it doesn't show that much. I'm currently working on the arms and shoulders. Previously, I had this kind of arc here, but it doesn't look realistic. And I took inspiration from a 3D model of Lady Loki from Marvel Rivals. And of course, this is not finished. It will change a little bit, but I think this one looks better, and I believe that I will need to change the topology of this as well, because it looks a little bit wrong, and the arms I haven't finished yet. I believe next week I will be working on this and showing what I'm doing. Then I did the legs. Of course, I looked at references of similar characters, but this style of Nami is a little bit tricky because One Piece proportions are weird. Since I wanted to be as close as possible to the original, I did proportions from One Piece, and the legs are really long compared to the other parts of the body. But I think I did a pretty good job of this. What I want to add is more detail on the knee, and also want to make the topology better for rigging and animation. Then separately I worked on this hand here, and I'm pretty happy with it. It looks feminine, it has detail, and of course it follows One Piece proportions, so it looks a little bit off because of that. Here there is not that much change, but I have like 5 different versions of this that look worse, and I'm not happy with what I have here. You can see the change from this model here to that model here. This older model looks not as good as this one here, but I'm not happy with this one either. The changes that I'm gonna make is making the jawline more realistic and not follow the Genshin Impact style, because I believe this doesn't look good when the lighting is not made for that style. Also, the eyes, at the beginning I thought that I will make them in a style of Genshin Impact and make them just a plain, but I don't quite like how they look. So I opted out to a sphere where I like how the eye itself looks, but I believe that if I follow proportions of One Piece, these are just too big and this character looks like an alien. So to be more realistic, I believe the eye should be smaller, and I will need to make the eye itself here smaller as well. The mouth, with this jaw change, I think I will need to either move it a little bit or change it as well, because the topology here will change. And these lines here will change where they go. Also, I'm not quite happy with my topology connection here. And honestly, I didn't work on this yet. I just connected this and told to myself that I will work on this last, and I think it is a good idea to do that. Another thing that is quite hard for me was the hair. I also had a lot of versions of the hair, and right now it is like this. I think this looks okay, but I don't really like how much weight it has. I'm not sure how to change it. Maybe I will remove the bottom parts or add subdivisions or something like that, or make it flatter. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm quite happy with this part because it doesn't really need a lot of detail. And this looks like strands of hair. Maybe I could move some of the vertices here so the lines are more smooth. But for right now, I shouldn't really focus on it. What I'm quite happy about is the hair tie and the hair here. It looks right to me. Maybe I could point the hair a little bit more down to show the gravity, but I'm not quite sure if I want to change this. Then talking about the arm here, use the shape of one of those fingers, and these ones are the same. These ones are the same. but these of course ones are different from each other. I added these parts here, so there is a little bit of logic how the fingers move. This here is just a little bit scaled in the different axes. I will need to work on this part a little bit more because it doesn't look as I want it to look. The arm here looks like this. I made from the reference, I can't really tell what is under here, so I made a kind of a lid that connects everything here, this part, these three parts here. Maybe they are bolted down or there is something inside, I'm not quite sure. And then connected this spring here to there for rotation purposes. Then these parts are different, so you can rotate like this. I will need to make pivots in correct places. And like connected to this arm like here, and another spring, which I'm not quite sure if this looks good. Maybe I will change this one. I had maybe 3 different designs for this, and for now I'm keeping this one. And this is the metal arm. Then moving on to clothes. Let's go to another shoe. The shape of the shoe I made in Maya. I used the bottom of this shoe for the size, and then extruded the shape here. Extruded like this part. Extruded out the top of the shoe, and actually brought this model to ZBrush and made this shoe look a little bit more clothy and not so stiff. Then in Maya I worked on the shoelaces and the holes for the shoes to make it look realistic, and I think I did a pretty good job. It's not perfect, of course, but it is not the focus of this model, and the topology is right, and this shoe is pretty much done. I believe I didn't do the UVs for anything yet, so next step would be the UVs, and then of course texture. For the belt, I modeled it completely in Maya. I struggled with it a little bit more than I should have. It just didn't look right for me, but at the end it looks fine. Next step would be adding bevels to these holes here so they don't stretch as much, and it is done. This part is also completely done. For the pants, I think I will need to work on them quite a bit. I made the basic shape. I made the detailed shapes already here, but topology is not done. Next step would be to make this low poly. Next step would be making this part to look like in the reference. Also making a hole here, so the actual leg is shown. It will be just an illusion that there is a leg here. I will add more detail to this part so it looks like in a reference, and I will do the same on this part here, on this model, the topology, and then the Cat Clark when rendering, and of course adding an extrusion, like a loop of faces here so it looks more realistic that it is a cloth. Of course I need to adjust it a little bit because shirt is from made from this shirt, and I changed the size of the muscles here, and I already moved faces around here, but I will need to adjust them a little bit more. And there's quite a bit more work to do. I'm not quite sure what I want to do next, but yesterday I wanted to start filming this showcase, and actually just started working on the muscles on this part, the shoulder part. So I didn't film anything yesterday, so I'm quite pumped to work on this. And I will probably, like I said before, will do some more work on the arm. If it doesn't go well, I will probably move on to doing something else like a leg, and then come back at some point to the arm. And for now, that's it. The showcase is done, but I want to talk more about the plans for this model. So, talking about the future plans for this model, I want to tell you that I am a 3D modeler, and my aim is to show you my skills on this channel. However, I have a lot of love for One Piece, and I want to make a mini animation using this character. I'm not quite sure how long, but maybe about 30 seconds of animation using this model. I already have an idea of how the animation would look like. I have planned out it in my head, but not on paper or software for timings. To do that animation, I will also need to make an environment. It won't be hard because it won't have a lot of models. It will have a ship. If you are familiar with One Piece, a navy ship. The environment will be on the water. I have a little bit of experience making an environment, but in that environment I made water and it didn't look great, so I will focus on the good quality of water there as well. And this channel will show my whole process. However, I do have a job which is not related to 3D modeling, and only after coming back home I can work on this project. So this will take quite a bit of time. The time frame for this that I believe is finishing this model maybe in 2 months from this video, then creating the ship probably another month, and then rigging, I will probably use a plugin for it, so that will make my life easier as well. To rig this model, it will take a little bit of time because I'm not quite sure how the metal arm will move. I try to make it logical, but using just that one picture for the reference, it is quite hard to make a logically working arm. I have a little bit of experience using a plugin for my graduation project in university for models, but it did take me quite a bit of time and I haven't used it in 2 years. Then putting everything together and animating, I believe it will take a month. And rendering, I am using Maya, and it takes a lot of time to render in Maya. To get the best results, I believe I should use Maya, but if I want to make the process quicker, I should use another program like Blender probably for rendering, or Unreal Engine. I used Unreal Engine before for a render for my portfolio, but learning it and applying for a more complex project like this one I'm not sure if I can pull it off and make it look really good like in Maya. Now, I believe that's it for this video. Thanks for watching and bye!